This is lesson 12, part B. But first, in part A, I asked you to find your amounts for zucchini, peppers, and tomatoes and check your work. You should have gotten 9 zucchinis, 6 peppers, and 15 tomatoes. But now for part B, your friend is making the same vegetable soup recipe, but she has increased it even more to serve more people. She is using 10.5 large onions. How many people does she plan to feed? So, like I said in part 1, I really like using the proportion way best when we only have to find maybe one ingredient or one part of the problem. So, I'm going to write a proportion. And before I write a proportion, I always write the two things I'm comparing. So we want to know how many people she's planning to feed. So in my proportion, I'm comparing people to her only ingredient she mentions is onions. So I'm comparing people to onions. So I need to find the information from our original recipe. So I know our original recipe served 5 people, and our original recipe required 1 1/2 onions. And our friend is using 10.5 large onions. So since onions are in the denominator, I know that I need to put my 10 1/2 in my denominator, and then I'm going to use P for my variable for people. So I now have a proportion. I have it set up as 5 over 1 1/2 equals how many people over 10.5. And I'm going to use cross products, the butterfly method, to solve this. So when I use cross products, I get 1 1/2 times P equals 5 times 10 1/2. And I'm going to zoom that in so I have more space to work. So 1 1/2 times P, I'm just going to leave that alone for the moment. But I need to work out the other side. I need to figure out what my 5 times 10 1/2 is going to be. So when I'm multiplying by a mixed number, I know I need to turn into a fraction. And when I have a whole number, I know I need to turn that into a fraction. So I end up with 5 over 1 times, to turn my mixed number into a fraction, I do 2 times 10 is 20, and 20 plus 1 is 21. So I get 21 over 2. Now I can multiply my numerators. So I do 5 times 21 to get 105, and then I multiplied my denominators, 1 times 2 to get 2. I could turn this back into a mixed number, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it an improper fraction because I know that I'm not finished working with it yet. So my right side will be 105 over 2. And my left side, I'm going to go ahead and turn my 1 1/2 into an improper fraction now. So I do 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So my left side is 3/2 P. My right side is 105 over 2. And I know that I need to solve for the P because I want to find how many people I have. So I'm going to use the inverse operations. So that is times 3/2. So I know that I'm going to need to divide both sides by 3/2. On this side, 3/2 divided by 3/2 turns into 1P, but I don't really need the 1 anymore. And then on this side, on the right side, I'm going to have to do 105 over 2 divided by 3 over 2. And I know that my rule for division is actually multiplied by the reciprocal, copy, change, flip. So I copy my 105 over 2. I change my division to multiplication, and then I multiply by the reciprocal. So I needed to flip this to 2/3. Now I could just multiply like normal, but I see that there's some cross simplifying I can do. So I can cancel out my 2's, and my 2's become 1's. And I know that 105 is the same thing as 35 times 3. So I can also cross simplify this way and cancel out my 3's to get 1's. So then I'm left with 35 times 1 is 35, and 1 times 1 is 1. So P equals 35 people. So for part B, we find out that if she is using 10.5 onions, then she is feeding 35 people. Now I would like you to try part C on your own. You are serving fewer people, so you reduce the recipe. You determine that you only need 4/5 of a green pepper for your soup. So how much olive oil will you need?